Yeah, I got it from the game. Oh, we're live now. All right, welcome to the Sarcasm and Liberty live stream. This is a special one. We have a Mike is here joining us, and then we have a special guest, Jeremiah Harding, who I would assume anybody who's actually watching this is aware of who he is. But if not, make sure you're following him on Twitter. And where else can they find you at?
Oh, well, Twitter, I mean, pretty much anywhere by that name. And also YouTube at Jeremiah Talks.
Yes, and I've been on your streams too. You got a good YouTube channel, so definitely go check that out. That's when I'm subscribed to you, and if you go check that out, you might even see me there a few times whenever I'm, actually have time. My schedule's crazy during the summer right now, but
yeah.
So, I'm hoping my computer's going to hold out because it's acting all weird. So I'm sorry if I just randomly cut out for some reason. But what we're talking about tonight specifically, this isn't going to be a long stream like usual. We're going to keep it a little short because I think all of us have other things we have to do. But we wanted to talk about this for sure because I do feel like it's an important thing to be discussed because for one, Twitter is vehemently denying that this is happening. Like, they are so insistent that this doesn't exist, but so many people can provide proof that, hey, look, I've been shadow banned, or I've been, suspended without any explanation whatsoever, or, it's kind of insane. Like Twitter's like, we have no bias, but there's a heavy bias going on. Like, one of the things you can look at is like the blue check marks. And I would even say a very
Sorry, I don't know if you cut out.
I think we lost him.
A recent anti-gun crowd got blue check marks like right away, and then this one kid.
Yeah, we appear to be losing Sarcasm.
He has a blue check mark now, but he didn't have one for the longest time, even though he had way more followers than many of the other anti-gun crowd. And it was kind of obvious they were being very biased about that. It wasn't until they were called out about it like a million times that he finally got his blue check mark. There are libertarians out there that have, tens of thousands of followers, can't get a blue check mark, and then you got people who have 1,000 followers, but they say the right things that tweets was, so they get a blue check mark. It's like, okay, you can't deny this bias going on. But shadow banning is a rough thing because it's one of those things, like, if you're suspended, you can be like, okay, I'm suspended. If you're shadow banned, Twitter just denies that even exists, really, from what I've seen. That just doesn't happen. We don't shadow ban people, but it's clear.
I think we lost him again.
That it's you are a victim of this.
Yeah, we keep on losing you. I don't know what it is, but
it's probably my computer, and I apologize for that. So it's being really slow right now. It took forever for it to just start, but
okay. So I guess if you just want me to jump in here and talk about that. So the term shadow ban is misunderstood quite a bit. It's not just if you don't think your tweets are getting traction, right? It's not just if you think something is going on. What happens is people who don't follow you can't find you in searches, can't see you in threads, and you're barred by what's called the quality filter. This is shadow banning in its complete form. It's how it works on every other platform, and for Twitter to insist that it doesn't work is absurd. So
yeah, I was actually going to say giving an explanation is good because I think a lot of people don't understand what shadow banning even is.
Right. Well, on Twitter, and I would recommend anybody who wants to find out if they are shadow banned. The thing moves around a lot, but it's open source and it's public on GitHub. So if you want to make your own fork of it, you can. But the current fork is available at shadowban.eu. It was on a few other sites, including one that was German and had its primary instructions in German. But basically, the shadow ban checker has multiple things that it checks for, and it does it all in automation using public APIs on Twitter. And it tries to see if it can find you, to see if you're a legitimate user, just like anybody else could. You know, to make sure that somebody didn't just type in your name incorrectly and then not get it. It tests to see if you have a search ban, meaning that somebody who doesn't follow you can find your tweets by searching for them. It tests to see if you have a thread ban, meaning it's one of those things where you can see like tweet unavailable even though somebody's clearly having a conversation with somebody, or just like it doesn't, or just doesn't show up at all. And QFD band, which is a quality filter band. So all of those bands contribute to a shadow ban, and they're different levels of the same shadow ban. So if you don't show up in a search, that's one level of shadow ban. If you don't show up in threads, that's another level of shadow ban. And if you don't show up due to, quote, quality filters, that's another type of shadow ban. All of these are called shadow bans because an outright ban is something that they would, by their terms of service, have to tell you about. They don't have to tell you shit here. All they have to do is, like, do it. And you find out later when your tweets stop getting as many impressions, which is a good indicator that you should check. It might be because you are being a dickhole or because you sold out and people stopped following you or whatever. But a good indicator of whether or not you do have a shadow ban is whether or not your tweets are getting impressions. And if they are, then you probably aren't shadow banned. If they aren't, or if they take a steep drop in impressions, you probably are shadow banned. Twitter does do this. Now, they put out a blog post. I'm going to put out a more comprehensive video on this, calling them out on their bullshit.
And this is going to be on your YouTube that you mentioned?
Yeah, okay. Jeremiah Talks.
Okay.
And I'm also going to post it on all my public platforms, whatever. But their blog has a thing by Vijaya Gade and Kayvon Bekipur about whether or not they shadow ban. And they said, setting the record straight on shadow banning. People are asking us if we shadow ban. We do not. But let's start with what is shadow banning. The best definition we found is this: deliberately making someone's content undiscoverable to everyone except the person who posted it, unbeknownst to the original poster. So that's already bullshit. A shadow ban can have different levels of shadow, and in this particular case, a shadow ban on Twitter doesn't block it from everybody, but blocks it from people who don't follow them.
So it sounds like they're trying to tweak definitions to make it sound like shadow bannings are non-existent.
Yeah, basically sophistry. And so they say, we do not shadow ban. That's the beginning of the next paragraph. You are always able to see tweets from accounts you follow, although you may have to do more work to find them, like go directly to their profile. And we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology. Well, that's probably bullshit.
Oh, that's definitely bullshit.
Because they have money coming in from certain individuals specifically keyed into things like Saudi Arabia. So on that level, they start to, go into this sort of thing. They say, we do rank tweets and search results. We do this because Twitter is most useful when it's immediately relevant. These ranking models take many signals into consideration to best organize tweets for timely relevance. We must also address bad faith actors who intend to manipulate or detract from healthy conversation. As a specific example, if a search result has 30,000 tweets, here's what we take into consideration when ranking. Tweets from people you're interested in should be ranked highly. Tweets that are popular are likely to be interesting and should be higher ranked. Tweets from bad faith actors who intend to manipulate or divide the conversation should be ranked lower. So already it starts to take this tinge of Orwellian censorship, because they say they don't block based on political viewpoints or ideology, but they just took some political ideologies which bank on divisiveness and definitely put them below others. Even if that's all they're doing, they're already lying. And then the last bullet point is the basis of our work around serving healthy public conversation. Here are some of the signals we use to determine bad faith actors. Specific account properties that indicate authenticity, e.g., whether you have a confirmed email address, how recently your account was created, whether you uploaded a profile image, etc. 2, what actions you take on Twitter, e.g., who you follow, who you retweet, etc. So specifically, they could say that you followed this account because you followed it back, so we're going to rank your tweets lower.
Well, that right away is like a red flag to me, because I'm like, okay, I follow people I don't agree with, and I retweet people I don't agree with the specific purpose of like I follow Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I don't like either of those people, but I follow both of them because I want to see what ridiculous shit they're saying that day. And sometimes I'll retweet them and be like, okay, look, you're stupid, you know, and here's why. But like me following them and retweeting them, like statistically, yeah, it looks like I'm following Donald Trump and retweeting Donald Trump. Doesn't mean I like or agree with him. Like, I feel like that's like when they're just looking at numbers too, like that's a big problem, because you're missing out on a lot of what a like.
And in terms of healthy conversation, I wonder how low they rank Donald Trump's tweets, because I'm relatively certain that most of those are fairly divisive.
Oh yeah,
probably at the bottom.
Very divisive.
Probably at the bottom.
But Trump seems to always have top search results, like almost guaranteeably. So either the MAGAists have found a way to completely subvert the algorithm, which I doubt, or they're full of shit and they do target people. So there's also how other accounts interact with you. Who mutes you, who follows you, who retweets you, who blocks you, etc. So they say, we know this approach is working because we see fewer abuse and spam reports. So this should automatically be off, because if somebody says something that's true, but that a whole lot of people don't like them for saying, they've been blocked and muted by a lot of people. And by this definition, they're probably, quote, ranked lower. Now, this is if Twitter was being honest, and they're fucking lying.
Oh,
because I've been shadow banned. I've had my results ranked 0, not low, not below. If you searched Insanity is Free at like 3 points in my account's history, I think, you would have found no results for Insanity is Free, even though I've been on since 2009. So I know it's bullshit. I know they're full of shit. And I know that this is all designed to make it seem like it's a good thing they're doing, but really, they're fucking censoring people, and it's really obvious. The reason you wanted me on this stream at all is because finally people started to be able to see a post I made a fucking while ago, because the reason they couldn't see the post that I made a fucking while ago is because I was shadow banned. So they're full of shit.
And I would say too, though, like, I mean, I tagged a lot of people on that post, and it was interesting, some of the different reactions I got. And one of the things I wanted to bring up, because typically when you're talking about a private company doing something shady, a lot of the responses you'll get is like, well, they're a private company, they're allowed to do that. And then I have to get back the response of, like, as a libertarian, yes, they have the right to do that. But we as consumers have the right to disagree with how they conduct their business and call them out on it. I would actually personally have so much more respect for Twitter, and albeit that's not even that much, if they would just be honest about it. Yes, we're biased and we're purposely shadow banning people we don't agree with. Be like, oh, well, at least they're being honest. You know, but like the problem that really just irks me so bad is that they're so insistent that that's not going on. And I feel like that's why they're getting such a bad rep lately, is because they won't just own up to what they're doing or just quit what they're doing. There's an obvious bias going on. It's very clear to so many people. It's not as clear to, like, I would say, the people on the left, mostly because they're benefiting from this bias, so they just ignore it. But it's all around Twitter. You hear about it all the time, like this Twitter bias of, like, who gets a blue check mark, who gets shadow banned, who's getting suspended. I mean,
Austin Peterson
got a 12-hour ban
suspended yesterday for using a GIF that's available on Twitter.
Safe Space Assassin got suspended for a while because she brought up like possible, like, child endangerment on the website, like pedophiles.
I had a
and stuff.
stream with her where she explained all of that too. So if anyone wants to see that interview, it has extremely bad audio near the end.
Yeah. No, we had a stream too. She was like, and it was, but it's nuts. It's nuts that, like, okay, there is an obvious bias going on, like where it's so apparent to so many people. This isn't like a conspiracy theory. This is people genuinely annoyed and be like, okay, can we just be done with this already? Can we just get to a point to where you're either like admitting your bias or just attempting to be actually non-biased in any way whatsoever?
Of course, I would argue it is a conspiracy theory. It's just also a real conspiracy being theorized.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, it is kind of a conspiracy. I guess when I use the conspiracy theory term, I usually use it in a negative light, and that's probably a little biased on my part, actually. But I would say it's not like a flat Earth conspiracy theory. Like, it's not just something that's ridiculous to even imagine. It's something logical, like, hey, look, this is actually happening. It's not just a bunch of people jumping on a train and saying, well, this must be the case because of their party line. It's people who are legitimately annoyed and upset that it continues to happen to them. And it's not it's not just the smaller people. It happens to it's not just like the larger people making this noise. It's everybody making this noise. And that's what is really like starting up this fire. And like actually when I posted on your like tagging people on your post, Jeremiah, somebody responded with an image of Twitter stock going down, like gradually going down, consistently going down. And they were like, yeah, this is probably why. And I would say, yes, Twitter has a bad rep right now because you think of Twitter and you think of like, oh, they're the people who like monitor what you say. And if you don't agree with it, you know, you get, because like, I'll be honest, I don't know, I have a 4,500 plus followers right now. I'm constantly in fear that some stupid thing I say, no matter how obviously it's a joke or how like lighthearted it might be, is going to cause my entire account to get shut down because somebody didn't like it and they belong to the proper group of Twitter, you know?
Well, and let's be completely straight here. Twitter has a trust and safety council well known for being completely biased. They have an editorial staff that decides what their moments look like and how everybody should interpret them. And they editorialize with that editorial staff to make sure that the stories are all read from the perspective that they want. And they're a leftist Silicon Valley institution with Saudi money. So, I mean, let's be really, really clear here. They're not here to be an unbiased, unpartisan source, and it shows every time they tweet. They show something about Trump, it's always negative. Every time they show something about David Hogg and Emma Gonzalez, it's always positive. Every time they show something about Me Too, it's always positive. Every time they show something about Hillary Clinton or Abedin, it's always positive. Every time they show something about fucking Sarsour, it's positive. Every time they show something about that new socialist senator candidate, it's always positive. I forget her fucking name because there are too many.
Well, I would challenge anybody. Go to any Donald Trump tweet. Sorry, it doesn't even matter which one it is. Any Donald Trump tweet, and see what the first 10 responses are. It'll always
they're always negative.
Always negative.
Oh, they're always negative.
Then go to a Hillary Clinton tweet and look at the first 10 tweets. Significantly different. There's an obvious, like, you're being fed specific information, you know, and you can kind of see that if, like, it's easier for libertarians. I would say, like, real quick, it's easier for libertarians to see because we're kind of in the middle and we don't have the left-right bias. We don't like either of them. We see, like, problems with both sides. So we can go to both sides and be like, wow, that looks weird. And go to the other side and be like, okay, that looks really weird. You know, so like when you're left versus right, you know, like, I don't know, your mind gets worked up in the party line kind of thing. But when you're more in the middle, you can kind of sit back and look at both sides and be like, something's not right here. There's a definite like tilt in the scales that nobody else seems to be noticing or talking about.
Well, see, but here's the thing. So multiple responses. First off, I don't see myself as a centrist. I see myself as outside the entire paradigm. And that gets me called a post-leftist a lot, even though that's a dumb even though that's a dumb title for somebody who doesn't agree with Sterner.
I would say, like, to me, what you seem to me, Jeremiah, is like, I would say you're outside the norm. Like, I use the word centrist out of convenience, not because I feel like I am a centrist, but more out of convenience for people who don't understand where libertarians actually land on that scale. It's just outside the norm. But
right, but in doing so, I'm not just talking about like which tweets are featured right after that one. Look at the moment sometime. That's where their editorial staff comes in. They have a blurb that talks about what the moment is. And the moment doesn't need to be related to a trending topic. It doesn't need to be related to something that is trending. It just needs to be something that the editorial staff liked that had some sort of traction. And then they make a moment out of it. And their editorial staff writes a blurb that paints it with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Everything Trump does is a bad moment. Everything any leftist does is a good moment. And I'm not one to say that that's, evidence that the entire platform is leftist. But what I will say is that their editorial staff has a heavy bias. As a Gamergate supporter, which I might go into that on your stream someday if somebody wants to contest whether or not it's valuable. That would
actually be an interesting one, yeah.
But as a Gamergate supporter, I watch it all the time where they retweet and endorse moments that paint people like Jonathan McIntosh and Brianna Wu and all these other fucking people in a positive light. And then they paint these people in a positive light, paint anybody who disagrees with them as an abuser, and we're not supposed to think they're biased, even though they clearly proved it. So, I mean, on that score, when they've clearly shown and proven a bias over and over and over and over again, and when the primary people who seem to be blocked out and regularly shadow banned are the people that their bias also so happens to be against, it starts to look like a load of fucking steaming bullshit when they say that they don't shadow ban people, especially when they fucking shadow ban people. And it's evident, and you can see it over and over. People start posting, even people with blue check marks, start posting saying, well, hey, my account is not visible in search. My account is not visible in my followers' feeds. My account is not visible anywhere except if people go to my account's page. My business isn't doing as well. Y'all are losing me money. And then a blue check mark gets it done faster. They get their account reinstated sooner because they've got like more direct access to the people, which is why verification theoretically is limited. I mean, Gab does a similar thing for right-wing people because their primary platform viewer is right-wing, but the primary platform viewer on Twitter is left-wing. And they know that, and they're perfectly happy to make sure that it happens that way every single fucking time. I've been shadow banned like 3 times that I know of, and probably more that I don't. And it's really easy to know when it happens because people will say, what happened to Insanity is free, and I'll say, I'm right here, and they won't respond. So,
oh wow, that's Mike, you look like you got something to say.
Yeah, quick question. There's a lot of like, it's mostly conservative accounts, like really prominent accounts who always complain about losing followers.
Oh, it's happened to me, yeah.
Now, do people lose followers just because their followers are shadow banned and they don't show up as a follower, or is that something different?
They lose followers because a shadow ban is a specific action. All right, a shadow ban is some Twitter moderator decided to put your account in a different state than the other accounts that are there. That's the only way it could work in the currently available knowledge. Unless they have a blanket system that they haven't talked about and wouldn't talk about because, of course, wink, wink, nod, nod, they don't shadow ban. So unless they have a different platform than the one they're talking about, the reason they do that is theoretically to reduce spam. But I think it's also because somebody's starting to say something that they don't like or use their account in a way that they don't like, and they want to distract that person and get them off whatever attack they were on. So it's sort of like a check. It's like, remember this when you decide to say this in the future. Do this in the future. You can lose everything.
There's something I've noticed, like, because I'll do like the Follow Fridays list or whatever, and I have a bunch of people on my list. And like one week I'll post it and it's fine. The next week I'll post it, it's fine. And then I'll post it the next week, and there's like 2 or 3 names that suddenly aren't highlighted because they don't exist anymore. I'm like, wait, what the hell happened to these people? And like people pointed out, like, hey, this account is inactive now. And everybody's like, oh, wait, what happened to that guy? They're not here anymore? Happens all the time. Like, I haven't done one in like a little while, but I'm sure if I did one now, it'd have like an amazing amount of like probably like 4 or 5 people just completely gone from that list. And I would have no way of knowing, you know, like that. And that's part of the problem is that when Twitter, like, just if they outright ban somebody or they shadow ban somebody, their followers don't really get to know about this. There's no notification that, hey, this account you're following is non-existent anymore, or is currently banned, or is currently shadow banned.
Well, and they do that on purpose.
Oh yeah, definitely, I agree.
If they told you, and this is something I've said before, if they told you that your account was shadow banned, you would have reason to revolt. You would have reason to post a bunch of shit against them, and their company would look bad. They can't have that. So what they do is they make it seem as though you're being unreasonable, because they don't tell you, they don't tell your followers, they don't say this person is suspected of spam. They don't say anything. They don't even put a little tag on your account, which would be fine, that said this person has been posting unusually. They don't do anything similar to that. They do it all in the background because they're fucking cowards.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I feel like that's why they have to keep it in the background, is because of, like, here's the thing. The mere speculation of this has driven their stock down. And if somebody can give me another reason of why their stock would be steadily going down other than this, like, heavy media storm about them, please, you know, give me the evidence. But so far, the only evidence is like the only negative thing about Twitter is that they are extremely biased in how they present things and how they conduct business and things like that. So the mere speculation of them being biased has driven their stock down. Them flat out admitting it would probably destroy the platform forever. Like, you would have, like, here, okay, you would have the right wing probably leaving in droves if they flat out admitted it. At this point, it's just speculation, and people stay on the platform to try to, like, fight the man kind of thing. But, like, you would have right wingers leaving Twitter in droves if they flat out admitted, yes, we're biased on the left side. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to cause this, like, mass exodus that would completely obliterate their platform and give other platforms like a new rise kind of thing. So I feel like that's the reason they're trying to stick to their guns that, no, this doesn't exist. But on the same, you know, thing is like, you know, I'm constantly calling out Twitter for this stuff. If they just flat out admitted it, I'd be like, hey, you're wrong for this, but, you know, you have the right to do what you want to do. You're a private business, but you're still wrong for doing it. I wouldn't have as much of a leg to stand on, because now my point is you're lying about it. Like, that's my big thing, is you're lying. You're flat out lying to your consumers, to your stockholders, to people who matter, to the people who are making your platform as big as it is. That's the huge issue here. So if they were just honest about it, like, I wouldn't have as much. I could be open about how I think it's wrong, but I can, you know, I also have to admit you're a private business and you get to do what you want. But, you know, I kind of lose my leg to stand on if they're being honest. So I do feel like the reason they're keeping it so quiet and so tightly, like, you know, just so tight-lipped about it, is because they do know it would damage their platform beyond belief if they were honest.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Jeremiah, is like, from your standpoint, like, if tomorrow they were very open, honest, and genuine about their bias, what would be your mindset then?
Oh, well, I mean, I would say, see, I told you so, I'm gonna keep using the platform. See, but that's my attitude.
Yeah.
And my attitude is to keep on the front, even if I'm apparently losing. Because there's a lot of people there, and I don't think I'm gonna win for liberty anyway. I think humans are lazy. They divert their ethical and physical responsibility to other entities. That's the reason government exists in the first place. And I think that there's going to be rivers of blood and years of darkness because people can't get their shit together, and they always put it on somebody else. And as a result, some truly evil people are at the helm who nobody pays attention to, and specifically discourages people from talking about, no religion and politics at the dinner table, blah, blah. And so as a result, humans have become a plague on the planet, a virus acting as a malignant entity. And, they're not likely going to change even if the truth was out tomorrow. Because the truth is that most people make excuses for this sort of thing, like saying they're a private entity, they can do what they want. Well, so fucking what? I'm a private human. I'm not paid by the government. I'm a private human, and I could just murder somebody tomorrow. It doesn't make it right, okay? So yeah, sure, it's a private company, but that doesn't mean that they're beyond reprisal, reproach, and concern. And when people claim they are, they're effectively saying that as long as you run a business, you're ethically exempt, and also exempt from any sort of comment on your actions. And I say, fuck that. But most people don't. Most people are just as easily willing to stick with them because, they don't have a whole lot of energy to move elsewhere. They don't have a whole lot of energy to destroy the platform. They don't want to, and they know that it probably wouldn't change anything anyway. And so a lot of them are just apathetic. So I don't think it would change much anyway if they did admit the truth. I think that the only thing it would do is create ways for people to get around it, especially if they told the specific parameters for the shadow ban, which is the other reason they don't want to do it, because if you tell people your secret, then they know the secret and they know how the trick works, and they can do the trick themselves. So effectively, they're keeping people bamboozled. They're keeping the wool over their eyes so that they can continue to fuck them over. And they're going to keep fucking them over because the average person doesn't give a shit. And, to me, that doesn't discourage me from using the platform. The only thing that this sort of shadow banning does for me is tell me, yeah, you know what? I must be doing something right.
That, especially the last part, wholeheartedly agree with. Like, anytime, because I've been hit with those, 6 or 12-hour, quote unquote bans where it was more like your account's restricted because I used the word cunt or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, well, I should be on the right track. Twitter thinks I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something right, I do feel like that's the, look at, I think Twitter side is a good example of somebody who, she didn't really do anything wrong. What she did was right. She was calling out something that's legitimately evil, and she got banned for it, and nobody stood for that, So I do think there isn't if Twitter's we're going to ban this person, a lot of people do rally because they're like, okay, this is ridiculous. If they were banned for any reason, they were obviously doing something right. And then that person, information starts to get around of why they were banned. It's kind of rare that you actually get to even realize the reason why you were banned, because Twitter will ban you without any explanation, which I think is completely insane. But yeah, it's just insane. I do think a lot of people are very complacent in their social media, where it's finding out who your big platform is just, it's not a speculation to me. It's confirmed in my mind. Twitter is biased as fuck, and the only reason I stay on that platform is to try to push the concept of liberty out there into the public eye. And I feel like that's why a lot of people remain there, is for their beliefs and their concepts, and they want to share it with the world, despite the fact that tomorrow they might be banned just for speaking what they believe. So yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous though. Like that, I don't know. Like being in a state where you're going to like you have a political belief and you want to share it with the world, and then you start a social media account, and you kind of have to have this fear looming over your head of, am I going to be banned tomorrow? Am I going to be allowed tomorrow? Am I going to be allowed to go log on to this and continuing what I do every day, kind of thing? That's insane to me. Like the whole like point of social media is supposed to be allowed to like join and share your ideas with the world, kind of thing. And if you're sharing politics, you know, like the idea of libertarianism isn't like dangerous or anything. I mean, it's dangerous to the status quo, sure, but
yeah, but that's why I bring up the Saudi money, because the status quo is important to Twitter.
That's true. The status quo is very important to Twitter. Very important, because
you know, and that's
destroy a lot for them.
And it's also valuable to bring up Facebook's CIA money. It's also valuable to bring up, you know, all of these things when you start to see them. Google's CIA money. Fucking YouTube is owned by Google, who got large amounts of money for building a giant spy satellite system known as Google Earth. And the government has a much better version of that can track things more close to live. So, like, basically, the government is showing you a glimpse of what they can do to you, and you're enjoying it because it helps you get to that cute little coffee shop better.
Yeah.
So people, and that's the thing, people are always making these fucking witty videos where they're saying, well, you know, when people are hiding behind a computer screen, they're such cowards. But they're not cynical enough to realize that people are largely honest when they're behind a screen, and that they might not say that in real world because they're cowards, but they're not different people when they're behind a screen. They're showing who they are. And in doing so, the majority of the people are proving by their daily interactions on Twitter, they don't give a shit about how things are run, much less how their Twitter platform is run. And in fact, as long as it doesn't dramatically impact the average user, Twitter will still make money even if they lose stock today. I mean, Tesla stock Tesla stock dropped hugely when Elon Musk called that dude a pedo, but it's back up like 6 points. So I mean, it's like people will keep on returning to their daddy platforms because fundamentally they're cowards and they're not willing to stand on their own. They're not willing to go to a place like Steemit and, you know, operate their social media through Busy. They're not willing to do these sorts of things because it's fucking another thing.
Yeah.
And because most of these people just want to do this thing so that they can feel good about themselves and then go about their day. It's instant gratification. It's a social video game with points and a high score leaderboard. That's all it fucking is. And that's why it's always funny, by the way, when people say, well, I'm not a gamer. That's not real. Well, yeah, but neither are your fucking likes. But you somehow do that.
No, like, to what you were saying about people being more honest online, there have actually been studies showing like online dating can be more successful than like in-person dating, because when you first meet a person online, you're typically more honest than you would be in real life. So you're getting more of like your baggage and who you actually are as a person out there quicker, and there's not as much of a learning curve when you actually like start literally dating. And I'll be honest, me and my wife met online, and every single relationship I've ever had before then was not an online relationship where it started. And my wife and I met online, and the very first thing we did in our very first conversation was basically dump all of her baggage. We were like overly honest with each other, and now we're married with 2 kids, you know, like almost 10 years now married. And you know, like, yeah, people are way more honest than online because you can actually see the other person. There's no fear of like judgment. And if the person comes at you in a way you don't like, you can just block them, kind of thing. It actually, you know, like I don't usually hold things back in my regular life, but yeah, like when I'm online, like there's no reason for me to not say exactly what I'm thinking, because worst case scenario is a person gets mad and like, yeah, some random guy out online being mad at me. That happens every fucking day. If you've seen my Twitter line, I make people mad at me all the time. That's basically, that's my life now. But
well, and for me, basically, like, I'm more honest. Well, okay, I shouldn't say it that way. I'm more direct and less careful, I guess would be a good way to put it, in person than I am online. Because online, I'm trying to create a permanent reusable record of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But most people aren't doing that. Most people are like pretty much an exaggerated version of themselves online. And when all these people try to make it seem like, oh, well, this is a separate entity. This is Bob online, not Bob in the real world. What they do is they effectively create an artistic expression of people that they have not crafted themselves in order to paint a different picture of the world than the one which exists.
Yeah.
And
I get that. I don't want to give anybody the impression that I'm a different person online. If anything, I would just say like there are things like who I am online is probably just like more exaggerated than who I am in person, because if you ever meet me in person, like I piss people off all the time, probably more than I do online, because people get pissed off more in person than they do online. Well, I'm very vocal about what I feel, but yeah.
But see, I get what you're saying. Like, the reason I brought that up is because these anti-abuse people, quote, they bastardize the word abuse and they try to make it seem like your online interactions qualify as abuse when they fucking don't. Your online interactions don't qualify as abuse, even if you're being threatened. Even if you're being threatened, you don't know that that's a credible fucking threat. It's not like somebody's pointing a gun at your head because they talked at you online.
Yeah, exactly.
And the vast majority of people who cry online abuse, and I was, face to face with this, being called the Gamergate supporter, because I am one, but being called an abuser because I'm a Gamergate supporter, I was face to face with the fact that I was abusing 0 people. I wasn't. I was just having conversations with them that they didn't like, and now I'm on several far-right block lists, not the least of which is a block list which has garnered me many friends for being an alt-furry block list member. So there's a huge amount to be said for realizing that these people are full of shit. That they're not actually there to prevent abuse. They're not actually there for trust or safety. They're there for secrecy and a biased network of safety, keeping protection pay built in for certain groups of people that the editorial staff agrees with, and then realizing that the entire system is stacked against the kind of person who would try to expose such a system. And if you start to look at it as more of a mob-style protection racket or a fucking, essentially a scam, if you start to look at it as hegemonic protectionism between parties that have a vested interest in a heavily censored platform to try and make it seem like popular opinion sways one way or the other, it's really obvious when you start to look at it that way what Twitter is.
Yes. And yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, like we're having such a great conversation. I hate to have to cut everything short, but like my daughter is like tweeting it, or not tweeting, she's texting me right now, like, hurry up. It's once summer's over, I'll be able to have longer streams. But this has been amazing. So real quick, I want to give Mike, if you have any last minute questions that you want to ask Jeremiah, go for it. And then Jeremiah, I'll turn it over to you to just kind of wrap up the whole conversation, and then we'll call it a night.
Gotcha.
Is there any way around the shadow ban? Like, is there anything you can do to lift yourself from a shadow ban?
That's a great question.
Alternate accounts create a redundancy. Think of it like a circuit. If one of them pops, you still got others. Additionally, keeping a network of people that you talk to in direct messages, because in direct messages, if you get gulagged, you can still talk to people. I have about 20 group messages that I'm a member of right now, Discord messages. I have alternate accounts on other social networks, which would be my third suggestion, is to treat your social media presence as a portfolio and diversify the fuck out of it. Get as many different people on as many different places as possible, because these organizations aren't the Bilderberg Group. They don't have regular meetings together, and they aren't out to make sure that each one of them thrives in any given way. They're competitors, and they're not going to make sure that one account that gets banned for one thing one place gets banned everywhere, unless it's a severe case like the Christopher Cantwell situation. And then everybody just did that as a sacrificial lamb. They still have cunts over there too. Everywhere that he was banned from still has a pack of cunts somewhere on it. And those people don't get banned, and they continuously don't get banned, even though they continue to be a pack of cunts. So try to form your own pack of cunts. Try to be your own extreme group of extreme individual.
Like a slogan everywhere. Yeah. Form your own pack of cunts. I like it. I love it.
So essentially, and this is the thing, I treat everything like a war. I'm an angry, militant individual, and I treat every one of these sorts of social media platforms as a brand new front. So if you fight on as many fronts as possible and fight wars of attrition, knowing that their staff is small and accounts that can be created are unlimited, you can fuck these motherfuckers up. Easy. Not hard at all.
No, that's an amazing response. Okay. Jeremiah, I'm going to give you, if you want to like take a couple minutes to, if you have any like last minute words to just kind of wrap up the whole topic, and then we'll call it a night.
Shadow banning is real. Twitter's part of the distraction. The Bilderberg Group is something you should research. Look into the company's connections. Look them up on Crunchbase. Make sure you know the money that your organizations that you support, where that money is coming from. And most importantly, smash the state, fuck the system, and listen to Bad Morning News on Jeremiah Talks.
That's a great way to leave it out, actually. Yeah, definitely. So definitely sub to Jeremiah's YouTube channel. Like I said, when he does live streams frequently, I guest on there when I can be. Not as much lately. Hopefully more once school starts and I don't have kids in my house or as late as they usually are in December. So yeah, Jeremiah, I want to thank you so much for being on here. This was a great chat. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for actually joining my stream for a change. And then Mike, as usual, thank you for joining. Tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe, Mike is going to be running another stream. So Mike, I'll give you like a minute if you want to just shout out what that stream is going to be about.
Tomorrow night, we're going to cover two topics. One of them, Medicare for All, is in the news. There are conflicting reports of it. There's one saying that it'll cost $32.6 trillion over 10 years. And then there's, this alleged news about some libertarian think tank said that you could save $2 trillion on it. And Bernie Sanders and leftists are praising the Koch brothers now because it's their think tank that did this. Donald Trump also attacked the Koch brothers this morning, so all of a sudden the left just loves the Koch brothers because they love everything that Donald Trump hates. Nice. It's funny. We're also going to talk about prohibition. We're also going to talk about prohibition, the straw ban in particular, but we're going to go over some of the prohibitions in history and some that are still active today that are happening in all 50 states.
Awesome. Yeah. So tune into that tomorrow, guys, if you can. It should be a really good stream. Mike has been handling our Wednesday streams mostly, so he's been doing a great job with that, and I appreciate that. So I'm gonna call it a night for now. This is actually my first stream I've been hosting in for a while, so it's good to be back, and hopefully I'll be doing more of these too. So yeah, we'll see y'all, guys. Make sure you're subscribed to Sarcasm _Liberty on. Is it dot or underscore on Twitter? Yeah, I don't fucking know. Just look up Sarcasm and Liberty on Twitter, Facebook, the website, everything. So you'll find our schedules eventually. So yeah, and then Jeremiah, again, a huge shout out to you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and if you decide you want to have that Gamergate episode, I could probably pull a couple people interested in talking and explaining what it really was instead of the abuse thing that the left wanted to paint it as.
That would be great, actually. We'll talk in DMs about that, and then my daughter's here to yell at me for being up so late. So, yeah, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Be well.